Hey girl, what you gonna do tonight? I've got my mama's car keys and you've got a ticket to ride.
Hello, and welcome to Your Favorite Flick, a podcast where each episode we celebrate a movie that my guests love. We aren't here to be critics, we're here to be fans. Jim Angehr joins us for the first time to talk about Beautiful Girls, a movie that hit at an important time of life for both of us. It's the story of a group of small-town high school buddies gathering for a reunion with one very sticky plot element we had to tackle. Thankfully, I let Jim do the heavy lifting on that part. We get rather nostalgic about a movie that is, in part, about nostalgia. Let's get into it. Jim Angehr, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here, Brad. This is a life highlight for me.
I'm sure it is, Jim, only because your life is so boring.
Fair.
So, Jim, you and I have been friends way too long. I think we're both looking to end that friendship. We don't see each other that often, which is great, but I stuck you with coming on anyway because I don't have that many friends. Why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself?
Brad, we've known each other since second grade, and our friendship peaked in second grade. It's been a long, slow car crash of a decline since then, but here we are just barely holding on. So, one of us is a Presbyterian minister who has been in the Philadelphia metro region on the Jersey side for the past 12 years and is moving this summer to the middle of New Hampshire, Dartmouth College. It is up to your audience to figure out which of the two that is.
Ooh, intrigue.
Already.
I will also say Jim is one of the world's top Bruce Springsteen fans in my estimation. I've been lucky enough to see Bruce multiple times with him on some transcendent shows, so thank you for taking me along to those.
And thank you for driving.
Fair enough. We're here to talk Beautiful Girls today. Let me give a quick rundown of the plot of this one, and then we'll dig in. It's about a group of friends in rural Mass. Willie, played by Timothy Hutton, is a New York pianist who returns home for his high school reunion. I believe it's the 10-year reunion, though I don't know if they actually say that. He reconnects with his friends there. Tommy, played by the great Matt Dillon, is carrying on an affair with his high school sweetheart. She is married. He has a loyal girlfriend played by Mira Sorvino. Paul, played by Michael Rappaport, is paralyzed by a breakup, I think it's fair to say, obsessing over that lost relationship, but also obsessing over centerfolds, which is centerfolds and supermodels, to be fair, which is perhaps his true passion. The group is challenged, I think it's fair to say, by the women in their lives. And a lot of this movie is about how they navigate those relationships. That includes Paul's ex, or current in his opinion, both of Tommy's women. Willie's girlfriend eventually shows up, and also includes a 13-year-old Natalie Portman, which I'm sure we will get into some questions over that one. This all culminates in them going to the reunion, a fight that Tommy has with his affair partner's husband, and redemption is founded by the end, I guess you could say. Anything to add to that summary, Jim?
Great job, Brad. You should do this for a living. And I would say what's interesting to me about what you said, nothing you said is wrong. As I was thinking through for this podcast how I would summarize the movie, it's interesting, and good movies do this. Even summarizing, you gave basic plot details. The question of what is the movie about is more elusive and could go in a couple different directions. So is this movie about, with no dispute on the facts of the case that you laid out, navigating relationships? Is it about going home again? Is it about getting older? Is it about loss of optionality in life choices as it moves on? Is it about the curative properties of Sweet Caroline at a smoky bar? Is it big city versus small towns? It is a leisurely movie that, to its credit, could be understood, and it's not a complex or surprising. I really enjoyed, Brad, your podcast with Scott about being John Malkovich. This is not a postmodern mind bender, but it's a relaxed dramatic comedy, comedic drama that's sort of like life, just breathes a little bit and could be a lot about a lot of different things at once.
I think you make a great point. It brings to mind one of my favorite Roger Ebert quotes, and I have a lot of those. A movie is not about what it's about how it is about it. I think this is a movie
Very
that's
good.
very much how it is about it. So, what we decided to do for this one, a little different than some episodes, but because this is such an ensemble piece, we thought we'd do a little bit of a character draft here. Go through the major characters in the movie, picking one at a time. And I think by doing that, we're going to hit those performances and those characters, but I think we'll get into a lot of those thematic elements as well, Jim, which I know is important to both of us with this one.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. Well, you were the guest here, so I'm going to let you start us off. Take us anywhere you want to go. So, where are we starting, Jim?
Garden of Forking Paths, there so factors in my mind, should I be interesting or uninteresting? Should I be cancelable or non-cancelable? I'll be borderline interesting and hopefully not cancelable. And this will take us into at least one or two of the larger themes. I will draft first Rosie O'Donnell, who is Gina Barisano in the movie Beautiful Girls.
That is a phenomenal first pick. I mean, that is just that's bringing it right off to me. I had her very high on my board. Talk to me about Rosie O'Donnell's performance here and the character.
So it could be argued with Beautiful Girls, there are a lot of male characters in the movie and female archetypes, but not necessarily characters. For better or for worse, product of its time, we can get into some some reasons for that. One of the questions that I've been batting around in my mind since rewatching Beautiful Girls again for this podcast, Brad, was if this movie were made today, how would it be different? And I believe that the Rosie O'Donnell character would be greatly expanded because she is the truth teller, the reality giver in just a couple of different scenes. If women are idealized in so many different ways, especially by Rappaport, but not only by him, and we will get in the draft both to Uma and to Natalie also, if they're highly idealized, albeit in opposite directions, it's Rosie O'Donnell that speaks the truth about, hey, this is what women really are versus what women are not. And this is why you guys, you men, are completely wrong in how you idealize, how you sexualize, how you objectifize women. And I think that Rosie O'Donnell character with mainly there's a monologue or they're walking through a convenience store. She pulls a couple of penthouses or whatever and takes Timothy Hutton and Rappaport to task for thinking about women completely wrong. Women are not what you see in in these magazines. It's a really short scene. It is funny, but then also without that scene, I think Beautiful Girls would suffer all the more as a movie and an artistic product, either of that time or any time. So give me Rosie.
I love that. One of the things I love about that scene from a storytelling slash directing perspective is we get no context. We don't know why the three of them are together going to the convenience that they're
I
going to
never
the
even thought of
convenience
that, but
store with
you're
her.
absolutely right.
We just flash right into that. They're getting
Yep.
lectured. They seem like they're laughing a little, but it's sort of like, all right, getting lectured by Gina is one of the things we do. We could
Yeah.
disagree, but we have to hang out and be lectured by Gina. It's just part of the deal of being part of that friend group.
Yep. Yeah. And she takes him to task and it's a small but crucial scene in a Shaggy Dog set of scenes of a movie.
I love it. I'm going to go with a more supporting character as well for specific reasons. I'm going to take Kev as played
Oh,
by Max Perlich.
okay.
First of all, I just love Kev. I love that he seems a little slow, but then he comes up with these moments of wisdom, whether they're actually wise or not. Like just right in the beginning, he talks about not understanding why Darian doesn't have a sleeve of styrofoam cups, and you
Yeah.
think, oh, is this guy not getting it? And then it becomes clear, no, he gets that she's doing this to get Tommy back to the house. And he's trying to stop that. He wants his friend to not keep making this mistake. So I
Mhm.
just love that. And we're told that right away. It's one of the first scenes, but I love that we see this character has just a little bit more going on than we think. But then what I specifically love about him, and something this movie I think gets right, often when we see friend groups in movies, and I think this is actually something that plagues male friend groups in movies even more than women,
Mhm.
is they all kind of have one big conjoined relationship. and there's not necessarily a lot of differentiation between, oh, guy A has this relationship with guy B, but he has this relationship with guy C. So we see where Paul's kind of like, what the hell is Kev even doing here? Birdie, Tommy values him more, but at the same time, like talks about Kev working for him, and Kev says, "No, I work with you." And then maybe most tellingly, when Willie comes into the bar for the first time, they have this whole ritual they do for greeting each other. And
Hmm.
then when he's playing at the piano, they have like a little sing-along thing they do that it looks like they've done 100 times together.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's an interesting illustration that hits very true to life for me, that if you have five people that are friends, it's probably not just one big relationship between the five of them. It's intersecting relationships that enrich the whole. And I feel like it enriches the theme and the story being told here.
I think that's absolutely right. And to add to that, Brad, and reflect upon the writing of the movie, I think this is a really well written movie. And one of, I'm not unique in this, but pet peeves about modern blockbusters and big picture things is that people don't talk in real life like the folks talk in the movie. This is a movie for the most part where the dialogue feels very lived in and true to life. Instance of that is the differentiation of friendship wavelengths between different combinations of the guys in this movie. Interestingly about Kevin also, he almost ends the movie. So he's as Timothy Hutton and Annabelle Gish are driving out of town, the last townsperson, the last friend that they see is Kev, which underscores the importance of the character. He's a glue guy in the movie, but more than a glue guy in the same time. And some of the most important pieces of dialogue are that reveal other characters are either said in Kev's presence or to Kev directly, which relates to my next draft pick. Do you have anything more to say about Kev before we go?
No, let's go.
Natalie Portman.
All right. Totally without controversy, character and relationship here. Dig in.
So I'll say why it's potentially controversial and then get back to the Kev contrast. So she plays a 13-year-old character in the movie, and she appears to have been around 13, a young teenager. And there's a quasi romance that develops between the Timothy Hutton character who comes back into town, is staying with his dad who's widowered, and then his brother David Arquette, who's in some Arrested Development sort of cage, and then Natalie Portman is this wise beyond her years girl neighbor that strikes up a set of conversations about Timothy Hutton and is precocious in how she identifies what's going on in his life. And they have some more serious conversations as the movie develops. Natalie Portman at one point says, "Hey, why don't we get married years from now?" And Timothy Hutton isn't quite, but also isn't quite not considering a romantic relationship with
She actually
with
says
Natalie.
we can walk through this world together, which speaks to the precociousness and pretentiousness of a 13-year-old, which I can relate to as a precocious, pretentious 13-year-old still at heart.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say, and there are 13-year-old girls that tell me that all the time. But that
This
sounds
is
better.
not,
Which
not taking that bait.
which speaks to the problematic potential nature of the character. So here what may or may not be a hot take. Is the character problematic? In my opinion, that's a fair and often important question to ask. To me, it's not an artful one. It depends on what you're looking at a piece of art for. So, is X character problematic? That's an ethical question or a sociological one. It doesn't necessarily enhance my aesthetic or artistic appreciation of whatever is being considered. And so, is she a problematic character? Is it a problematic relationship? Potentially, yes. Although I think the movie, for its own part, does try to set some guardrails on not being too far. Like, for example, when they're on the ice skating rink and she falls and Timothy Hutton catches her, that is one of the least sexualized catches that one can see in a movie where Hutton's hands are in fists, they are in plain view, and so that appears to be an instance where they're trying very hard not to over sexualize the relationship, whether it completely succeeds or not. But then the other piece of it for me is what Kev reveals by way of character feels much more organic to me as he interacts with all of these other guys. There's an artificiality to the Portman character where part of it is it's not quite believable that early 30s man would strike up this deep relationship with a 13-year-old girl neighbor. And then in general, and I'll shut up after this, Brad. What's become a trope in TV and movies to me is the character with a therapist. So in The Sopranos in 2000s, big tough gangster Tony Soprano talking to Lorraine Bracco in a therapy room was pretty revolutionary from an artistic perspective because you have this horrible person on one hand trying to get in touch with his feelings and so on. As that type of scene has developed over the years, it just becomes a crutch or an easy way out to get into a certain character's head. Because, oh, just send that character to therapy so you can show not tell or so you can tell not show what's actually going on. And so the Natalie Portman character for me feels a little bit like a cheat code where we're getting more out of Timothy Hutton than in an overly direct way that would have been better accomplished through some of these indirect dynamics with all of his friends. What do you think?
I think you make a great point about the therapy stand-in, and I think well, he does talk to his friends a little about weighty issues. Those conversations quickly devolve into like, "Well, rate your girlfriend on a scale of 1 to 10,
Right.
on face, body, personality."
Yeah.
So, I think he's playing this somewhat tortured bar musician. I
Yeah.
think we need an outlet of somebody he talks to more seriously, and I think she provides that outlet. Do I
Sure.
wish they could have and I will say to its credit, I don't think it's sexualized. I think it's more romanticized. I wish they had found a different way to tell that. I think we should say, in fairness to her, I think Natalie Portman's performance here is outstanding.
Very
Whatever we
true.
think of the character's function in the movie, she is a believable, brilliant, out there, but you can tell guarding something, young teen. So whatever the wider context, I mean, this to me is a breakthrough performance of someone who very justly became a major actor and star.
100%. Yeah, and to me, I think you're correct also that a lot of the Hutton conversations with others of his friends devolve pretty quickly. That's a more to me, that's a if we would get at that character through the oblique nature of those and devolving nature of those conversations to arrive at some of those same things, whether or not there would be a breakthrough moment of deeper conversation with any one of those characters, to me, that's a more interesting triangulation than to have this side character who, yes, Natalie Portman does great. So who's up for the next pick? Is it you at this point?
I am up, and I got to go with my man Michael Rappaport playing Paul.
Okay,
Um,
let's go.
first of all, First of all, I do love Michael Rappaport, and I don't know if Michael Rappaport's a good actor or not, but I love him as a screen presence. I haven't seen his worst movies, maybe, but I almost always enjoy him. Uh,
Yeah.
Want to say it is very funny that he is this clear New Yorker who we're supposed to believe is a small town
Oh,
mass
Massachusetts.
guy,
Yeah.
but that's what they're telling us. I don't know if there is a more apt insult in movie history than when Indira calls him a knucklehead. I mean, this character is the world's ultimate knucklehead. He's got these plots and machinations. He's proposing to his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
He's got the supermodels all over the wall. He speaks the title line of the film, and
Yes.
an interesting, I think something that more interesting than maybe on first appearance. You hear the title "Beautiful Girls" and you go, "Oh, Mira Sorvino or Uma Thurman, Annabeth Gish." This movie has a lot of beautiful girls, and it's like, nope, that's not who the title refers to. The
Exactly.
title refers to these supermodels and other unobtainable women. So I think Paul is our clearest representation here of something that all of the men struggle with, of not quite being in reality because they are seduced by Madison Avenue, as he says a couple other things, but Madison Avenue, as Gina says it. Also think it's interesting, Paul is not there for her lecture when he's the
Right.
one who clearly most needs it. Um,
Yes. Interesting.
yeah, I just and I feel like every group of friends has its knucklehead, and he tends to be beloved by everybody, but everybody finds him exasperating at times. And look, I don't want to say Michael Rappaport only plays himself, but let's just say they picked the right guy for that role.
Yeah, I would say that it was a great acting job by Rappaport, but I'm not sure that it was an acting job. And even if he's in rural Massachusetts as opposed to New York, playing a stereotypical masshole is not there. There have been larger stretches that actors have been asked to undertake than this one. And you're right, great. It's a really awesome monologue by him when he goes through the beautiful girls thing, perfectly undercut by Timothy Hutton saying that he was going to check the fridge for human heads afterwards. That's just it's a real life thing that you can imagine a buddy saying to a buddy who kind of gets over his skis as far as waxing poetic about something, women most of all. But then also there's a knowingness there where the movie's not taking itself too seriously or blind to what it shouldn't be blind to. And with Rappaport, maybe the single most enduring comedic bit that stayed with me through the decades with this movie is a champagne diamond. Oh, over and over again, this diamond that he gets for Martha Plimpton, who emphatically is not his fiance at the point of the movie. Everybody says the diamond looks like piss, but he always comes back and says it's champagne with that New York clenched jaw. It is spectacular. So the
except except Kev, who has apparently read about this new trend in diamonds. And I can never tell, is he giving him shit in a very understated way, or is he the one guy trying to defend him? I'm not sure to this day.
the mysteries of Kev. Oh man, that's great.
And I do just want to say, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I kind of think with the number of characters here that Jan, played by Martha Pimpton, might not end up a draft pick. Stop me if you have big plans otherwise. I need to own this. So the one that's come up a couple times is the huge crush I have on Diane Weiss. My Martha Plimpton crush, going back to Running on Empty, is at the same level. So she doesn't get a ton to do here, but I love that she is his ex, an object of desire, and the character who most has to tolerate his bullshit.
Yeah,
And Martha Plimpton always has a toughness to her that works very well in that role.
she's a dame and a fox, including in a movie with the title Beautiful Girls. Very true. And Brad, even though you were right on when you said that the actresses in this movie are not the beautiful girls of the title, I'll go ahead and draft Uma Thurman, who happens to be quite dashing in this movie. The success of the movie doesn't rest on Natalie Portman or Uma Thurman. That's not the main axis of the movie. I do at the same time believe that Uma plays a very important balancing role with Natalie, and I can better take the idealization of both of these characters because they are complementary of one another in ways that make both of them more relatable. So going back to Blake, I see in both Portman and Thurman, we have songs of innocence and songs of experience as, yes, perhaps over idealized, which is its own set of issues with feminine portrayals, but then also really interesting. ideals and dialogue partners for guys that are still trying to figure out what they think about life, the universe, and everything. So if Portman is everything is before her and new and wide-eyed and optimistic, Uma, on the other hand, is the experienced one who's enticing to these guys for a completely different set of reasons and completely self-possessed in ways that the Natalie Portman character isn't quite yet. But I was completely captivated by the Uma Thurman performance. She's great and succeeds in multiple times in the movie, putting the guys in their proper places.
I'm a big fan of entrances. I think great movies tend to handle character entrances in an interesting way.
Yeah,
And I love that when she comes into the bar, we find out she's Stinky's cousin and also Frank's cousin, who's
right.
the bartender.
Yeah,
And she just gives like John Carroll Lynch and Troy Taylor Vince, two of our great three name actors, by the way. She just gives them these extremely affectionate hugs. And like, we see right off that she's, I don't know if I want to say she's got the common touch, but she has a lot of caring about her right from that first moment.
yeah,
And it kind of cuts in a cool way against this Uma Thurman glamour because she's kind of impossible to de-glam, I think, as an actress.
yeah.
So it uses that in a way to illustrate the kindness and care of her character right off the bat.
Which again is true to life. And at the risk of, and this will be for the listeners to decide, ultimately, I want to be careful not to overgeneralize women, but every once in a while, even back to our shared experience, Brad, in high school, there would be a woman or a girl, and this is also true of guys, that are the best looking, but also the best people, and it's completely awesome, but completely intimidating at the same time.
Well,
When you are drop dead handsome, drop dead gorgeous, but then also you're just really nice, and you're asking me how I'm doing. You're giving me you're giving me a big hug. I'm gonna go back to my nerd corner right now. But Uma just destroys all of the categories while welcoming everybody into her presence. And yeah, she great entrance, and that's I think she's more than a cameo, but I think it would have knocked the movie off balance if there was more of her character than actually was. So the perfect deployment, even as far as screen time, that Uma did. And then when Rappaport tries to go too far with her, it's the perfect like, oh, I could see why you did it, why you try to make a move, and guys are dumb, including Rap's Rap's character who
more than
misinterprets.
most.
Yes, who misinterprets Uma's basic goodness, but then she was absolutely right to react negatively to him, and so true to life all the way through. And last thing for me about Uma, I think it is in that entrance scene when she says, "Let's do shots." Just another master stroke, and she pours the shots into multiple glasses without looking. Go back and
Very good. Very good.
you
Very good
go
point.
back and take a look.
And they propose every stereotypically girly shot in the world, and she says whiskey.
There we go.
You hit on something there that I hadn't really considered. I thought about as we were talking that you could potentially have Uma playing the Natalie Portman role as well within the movie. I mean, not the literal character, but the functional role.
Yeah.
But I think you make a great point that that would actually give her too much screen time in a way that would undercut her slightly ethereal nature. I don't know that ethereal is even the right word, but
Mhm.
she needs to be something that doesn't quite fit in that town. Doesn't look down on it, but doesn't quite fit there. And
Yeah.
if you get into her having three more scenes, that probably becomes difficult.
I That's true, and so Timothy Hutton from New York in the movie, but is able to reassimilate back for that reunion weekend in a way where he's just another one of the townspeople for a little while, more or less. Uma from Chicago, but is in but not of that that context in ways that differentiate her as a character in some pretty exciting ways.
I am gonna go with Tommy slash Birdie next, as played
Okay.
by Matt Dillon. First of all, they never say this, but I assume he's called Birdie in tribute to Larry Bird. You mentioned that person who is very cool and also very approachable. And I feel like Tommy is the broken down version of that. That, like, you
Yeah.
look at this group, we know he was the star basketball player. You look at this group of friends he has, and you don't get the impression that they were the really cool kids in class. But it does feel like they were all friends going all the way back to high school. He
Hmm.
kind of undercuts that, talking about Paul at one point. Well, I have roaches, I have rats, I have Paul.
Yep.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yep.
But because of those things, he's also somebody, of course, that lived his glory days in high school. I won't say there could be nobody better. Matt Dillon is the perfect actor for this. Good looking, highly charismatic guy, but a guy who had a world weariness about him going back to The Outsiders. And
Shout out to that
he's
podcast from your favorite flick. Keep
that will
going.
be coming soon. I think my friend Scotty, who's been on before, very cool filmmaker. I think he and I are doing Outsiders next.
Love it.
So there just is in something that I think was highly relatable in early college years when I first saw this. It's this inability to move on. And of course, he's
Hmm.
been 10 years out of school and stuck in neutral. But we can still see what his appeal is and what he was. And by movie's end, not that he's trying to be the same thing again, to his credit, but that we do buy that he has potential. I just find that all a delicate balance and think it's done good service by the screenplay here and most especially by the performance.
Yeah. Dylan, and this is true of his acting in general. He's got to be both sides of that coin. Where if he's too handsome, charismatic, you don't believe the broken down part. But then if he's only broken down, you don't believe that he is potentially and once was more than that. So yeah, the Matt Dillon character, Birdie, he's the closest to being a character in a Bruce Springsteen song. Speaking of glory days, where there's more behind him than in front of him, even though he's still young and is being used by Darian, his old girlfriend who's happily married with a family, played by Lauren Holly. The He's just a sex play toy on the side, and she's happy with basically happy, let's say, with the arrangement. I don't necessarily, and I don't think we need to spend a ton of time talking about the end or the climax of the movie, because with a movie like this, even related to what you said earlier, Brad, about the Ebert quote, I don't love the plot mechanics of the end of the movie, the fight at Lauren Holly's house, etc. The But I do think you needed to do something to wrap up the movie, and then the suggestions of redemptive arcs for the characters, regardless of the shakiness of the fight scenes, etc., they seem believable. So there is some believable and credible hopefulness woven into the final shots of the movie.
Yes, absolutely. I think for Birdie and Willie, especially, we see them on what seem to be promising pathways. I think it's great that
Yeah.
you don't just get a wrapped happy ending. Paul, harder to say, but those two, I agree. There might have been a more interesting way to hit a narratively satisfying third act in this movie. It is, to the point you made early, it's a movie that's not about its plot. So, as often happens, it becomes kind of difficult when you then need to impose plot upon a movie at the end,
Yeah.
to hit throw. No, I will say, when I was 20, I loved that ending. So some of that's experience now.
Yeah, let's go show up on somebody's lawn and start cracking heads. Why not?
All right, I believe you're up.
Let's see. Give me sidekick character Hall of Fame Noah Emmerich playing
Oh, you stole that one from me. I should have gone earlier.
Michael Mo Morris. Brad, Mo in this movie, Noah Emmerich in real life, is the best friend that I wish you were to me, but never were. I mean, nobody can have a best friend as best friendy as Noah Emmerich. So
This is
he's
very much the character I aspire to be here. Like he's the one I relate to as much, but I will admit I fall, far short of.
as do we all. So he's just the stand-up guy who's also a great hang. He has his life together. He's the one that's doing the family thing, unlike any of the other high school buddies of his, and is made all the more believable and credible as a character for actually being kind of into it. So it would have cheapened that character if Emmerich is married with kids but hates it, or is just complaining about the ball and chain the whole time, or that sort of thing. He's somebody that is able to relate to all of his friends, but then is on his own path and killing it. He's in addition to Uma, although a very different character, city set of circumstances, he's the most outwardly successful character in this movie, and you get it. So whether it's Truman Show, sidekick, best friend, to The Americans when he was the fellow FBI agent who eventually gets in over his head, but just a guy that exudes being a stand-up guy and doing the right thing. Brad, our world needs more Noah Emmerichs. He's probably a horrible person in real life, but don't shatter my bubble.
Yeah, that's one of the few cases where I can say I'd kind of be devastated, like if I'd met Noah Emmerich and he was a jerk. I so associate him with being a good dude. It's a moment that in lesser hands I think would have been trite, but when he shows up to beat up, oh, what's his name? Anyway, when he shows up to beat Jason Robards' son,
Yeah.
um, the daughter comes to the door and his face just changes and he realizes what he's doing and he
Yeah.
realizes that whatever they did to Tommy, even if there were any righteousness to this response, that this is a father who's trying to hold his family together.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see. It's so true to see. We've seen Mo skating with his kids, holding hands with both of them. His relationship with his wife, played by Ann Bobby, who's an actress I don't really know otherwise, but
Yeah.
their relationship just seems so sweet and so lived in.
And then to the skill of the movie again with the Noah Emmerich character and being the family man, it makes sense, it's believable, it's compelling, but then also serves a narrative function because that's a set of family relationships that the other friends of his see, and you can see it on their faces. They're both attracted to that life, but then also have questions about that life at the same time. So it introduces a different but necessary, both complementary but harmony melody, but then also some harmony that makes the whole movie presentation richer.
Absolutely. So I feel like we did a great job with characters here. Oh, you know who we should mention that we skipped is Mira Sorvino.
Oh yeah.
Um, she doesn't get a ton of screen time here, but I think that is somewhat by design. She plays a very wounded woman,
Mhm.
certainly wounded by Tommy's behavior, but I think we get the feeling that she carries maybe deeper wounds with her than that. And one of the things Mira Sorvino is brilliant at and didn't have a career with enough prominent roles. I think it's fair to say she got caught up, unfortunately, in the Weinstein stuff where he probably limited her opportunity,
Yeah.
but she is so great at generating empathy. And I think
Yeah.
it's important here with the limited screen times. And I say very intentionally empathy and not just sympathy. Like there could be a version of this character that you're sympathetic towards, but you only want to protect. I think we get the sense that she has agency, but she's having a lot of trouble executing that agency. And that to me is ultimately more interesting than just the wounded bird who can't fend for herself at all.
Yeah, and in general terms, she's hurt but not a victim, and that's not to belittle victims when you've been victimized in various ways, but there's a well-roundedness to her character that it's not only the woundedness that comes through there's a resilience which makes her a character that we root for a lot more and also makes her devotion to Matt Dillon's character more believable and less surface level at the same time.
I also love that we know she has Gina and Mo's wife as as a very strong support network for her. Like, I think that's,
Yeah.
like when Tommy fucks up again, which look, even if Tommy's on a better track, Tommy's going to fuck up in some way.
Yep.
It's good to know she has good friends to look out for her.
Yeah, and let it be it needs to be said at least at one point in this podcast that again, even if Beautiful Girls is not what it ostensibly would indicate as far as the actors and actresses in this movie, there are some beautiful actors in Beautiful Girls. Iris Sorvino is certainly one of them, and a spectacular actor.
Let's go on to what we like to end the show with movie recommendations. Jim, I asked you to prepare two. I'm going to give one in between, but why don't you start us off with your first movie recommendation based on Beautiful Girls?
So number one is roughly contemporaneous with Beautiful Girls. I'm going for You Can Count on Me 2000 with Mark Ruffalo and Laura Linney. It's another indie-ish project. Have you seen You Can Count on Me, Brad? I forget if
Yes,
we.
yes, absolutely. That's
Okay.
where I discovered like Laura Linney, where I think many of us discovered her there and just
Yeah.
followed her career since.
Right. So not carbon copies of each other, Beautiful Girls and You Can Count on Me. It's a quiet, character-driven, comedic touches, largely just a talky drama that involves, similar to Beautiful Girls, both coming home and getting older, and you have adults of roughly the same age at very different life stages and are grappling with life choices, life behind, life in front, adult responsibility, and just sort of the growing up type of stuff that involves a lot of really top level actors that are saying things that human beings say. So give me You Can Count on Me as my number one comp.
What a great movie. If you care about relationships, if you care about being human, see it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in a very different direction. We had a little fun with Scott Rosenberg's career here, but the first movie he wrote that he had produced just a year before this is Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, starring Andy Garcia. It's a gangster comedy that I think is better than things like Smokin' Aces or
Okay.
Suicide Kings. Similar vibe in some ways. Great fun turn by Christopher Lloyd in it. The always almost a star Treat Williams is in it as well. It's far from a masterpiece. It's not even Beautiful Girls good, but it's a fun watch. And I actually do think it's a good script in a very different way than this one. It's artificial feeling, but very intentionally artificial feeling. I think if you're a Beautiful Girls fan, it's worth checking out. And I will admit, I normally don't like Andy Garcia as a lead actor a lot. He's usually one of those guys for me that's better supporting, but here I
True.
really enjoy him.
So I will go to an older movie and let's do from the early 1980s, The Big Chill. Starring Kevin Kline, William Hurt, Meg Tilly, and yeah, pretty much if Beautiful Girls in the late 90s starred this, especially in retrospect, surprising cadre of young and up and coming actors, similarly was The Big Chill in the early 80s, written and directed by Lawrence Kasdan. There's a friend group that comes back together for the funeral of a friend of theirs that took his own life. And you have people coming with this giant amount of shared history. They're all sharing a house, some of them sharing beds together. So it's not a high school reunion like we have in Beautiful Girls, but it is another reunion weekend of sorts where life has happened, notes are compared, losses are measured, and something real is found in real time. And these are the sorts of movies that, and you see more movies than I do, Brad. Whether Big Chill, whether Beautiful Girls, you can count on me. I wish there were more movies like this made today. Where there's no big point, there's no monster in the sky that's shooting beams to Earth that's going to destroy everything. But it's movies that consistently hit what they're aiming for and speak to us in quiet rather than overt ways. And I imagine that Big Chill and somebody like your brother Jeff could say much better than I. But I would suspect that there are a lot of people that work in the film industry that would look at a movie like The Big Chill and say that's one of their better remembered, if not favorite movies, that's a classic in its own right, even if it's less bombastic than Jaws or something like that.
Yeah, well, I try not to bemoan the state of the film industry too much, to say things evolve and it's easy to get nostalgic.
Yeah,
It is unfortunate that, and I guess The Big Chill is a little bit on the Oscar end, but it's unfortunate that the movies that have really fallen by the wayside are adult dramas that aren't specifically Oscar plays, that are like aiming at a broader audience than that.
right.
And while The Big Chill got Oscar recognition, it was a big hit too. Um,
Yep.
you look at movies like that, and like Terms of Endearment was one of the biggest hits of its year, right around the same
Sure.
time. And it's unfortunate. It's harder to get those projects made. What I understand, it's especially hard to get stellar casts around them. Now, Big Chill hit a little, I don't want to say lucky, but they identified a lot of people that weren't yet stars.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just it's hard to gather that sort of talent for anything that's not like an Avengers movie.
Yep.
I think unfortunately. What I would say, and I don't think it'll be controversial take to say Big Chill's a better movie than Beautiful Girls, though personally I have more affection for Beautiful Girls by a long
Yeah.
shot. But one thing that makes the Big Chill really interesting, it is very much about boomers. They are specifically alums of University of Michigan, which
Right.
was one of the hotbeds of the student radical movement.
Hmm.
I think the fact that it's bringing in that broader context. I'm not saying Beautiful Girl should have done that. It's a very different movie, but I think as far as broad appeal, bringing in that broader context, it was still a pretty early time to address the baby boomers as they were moving into yuppiehood.
Yeah. So this is just before the greed is good Wall Street era, and but we're close enough to be feeling it and close enough to be already regretting it all at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like Kasdan has a good eye for that very early. I mean, this movie's 83, and it feels like the reckoning wouldn't be until like the Black Monday stock market crash, and
Yeah.
he's years ahead of that. All right, Jim. Well, I want to thank you so much for doing this. Took a little while to get you on, but man, I think this was great. Now that we got it together.
We did it. Good job by us.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.
That's it for this one, folks. I'm Blake Glazer. I host, produce, and edit the show. Thanks to our usual scallywags and ne'er-do-wells for their support. Julia Mott and our foxhound Shyla are my beautiful girls. The music you hear at the beginning of the show and now is by my friend Richard Bates and his band The Huns. That's Hons. You can find The Huns music on Bandcamp. This Sunday, Brad Kaufman is back to talk to us about the Australian historical drama Gallipoli, a movie that has been important to him his whole life. Please follow, rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, all the things. Those reviews in particular, no matter how long or short, really help us reach more people. You can follow us on Instagram at YourFavoriteFlick, on Letterboxd at FavoriteFlick, or shoot us an email at yourfavoriteflick@gmail.com. Huns, take us out.
If I spend my days working for a dream, even one with higher rate of success, made crazy stupid money for crazy stupid things. Is that any part of keeping brushing up on poetics. That's 14 times 365 inflection.